Today we're going to have a lesson on procedures and processes for my classroom. And we're going to go through a lot of different processes. I think it's important to set these expectations early, and therefore everyone knows what's expected of them, and so we won't have problems going forward. So first of all, before we do that, what is a procedure? Well, a procedure establishes a correct method for doing something, and you do that so you can get your work done efficiently and without distraction. And we're going to go through, as I said, a lot of different procedures. Entering the classroom, we're going to take a look at what a week looks like at a glance. Slant, you'll know what that means at the end of this. What can I do with my phone in your class, Mr. Hayes? How do I go to the bathroom? How do I let you know? What do we do about group work, individual presentations? Can I chew gum in your class? And finally, how is my work graded in this class? So first, we're going to go over how to enter the classroom. So I'll be at the door on the threshold waiting for you. You greet me with a handshake, and then you enter the class very quietly. If there are papers that are necessary for that class or that week, they'll be right at a folder by the front door. I can show you. And then you sit in your assigned seats, take out the materials you'll need. Always you'll need the previous night's homework and your planner, and depending on what it was, you may need other things. Take your book bag and put it on the floor under your desk or on the back of a chair. And immediately you take tomorrow's homework and write it down in your planner. It'll be up on the board. And then you start your do now problems. If you have a problem on your do now, first, in a very quiet voice, ask your table partners for help. And if they're unable to help you, then you can raise your hand and I can come out and try to help you. And I want a quick word about what it is to be tardy. If you have not done all this and the bell rings, then you are tardy. So if you are working on your do now and I come around and see you haven't written your homework in your planner, then you're considered tardy, because before the bell rings, these are all the things we have to do. Quick word about handshakes. As you enter the classroom, you shake my hand, and we're going to do so in a proper way. It seems silly, but we're going to practice how to shake a hand, because let me tell you, having been on the other side of the desk of people who are looking for jobs, I've hired probably over 1,000 people in my life, and if someone gives me a wimpy handshake or doesn't look me in the eye during a handshake or whatever, they have 2 strikes against them before the interview starts. So a handshake should be formal, professional, and you look me in the eye, and with good posture. And it should be a strong handshake, but not a bone-crushing one. You're not trying to show me how strong you are, you're just showing me that you are doing the handshake the right way. If you're sick, or if I'm sick, then you can give me an elbow bump, because we don't want to get each other sick. Okay, now we're going to get out our guided notes. Throughout all of our presentations throughout the year, there are guided notes that I will have given you. And so the first thing we do with our guided notes is we put in our date. The date is up on the board. And then we're going to write in our objective. And so that by the end of today's class, I will be able to prove that I understand specific classroom policies and procedures. And the first one we're going to talk about is entering class. So after greeting me at the door, quietly enter and get to work. You're due now, write your homework in the planner. And if you're not working when the bell rings, you are tardy. Now let's take a look at a week at a glance. We go through the same process every week. I'd say about 90% of our weeks we go through the exact same thing every week, obviously different content, but just the same way of doing it over and over again. This makes it easy for you to know what's going on and what's expected of you. And every week we will learn new things, but no more than 2 a week. And you will individually present work. Actually, you'll be responsible for every other week. You'll have to present something, but it'll happen every week. And we're going to do some group work every week, work in groups. And finally, every week we end with taking a quiz on what we've learned that week. So here is what the week looks like at a glance. You'll see that there are certain parts that are graded, certain parts that are student-led. That is, you guys are going to do the talking, not me. And you even have some opportunities for some extra credit work. But you'll see that every week on day 2, 20 minutes into it, if you look, you can look and say, aha, we're doing student-led homework review at that point. So you should always know exactly what's going on. Slant. What is slant? Well, slant is a type of body language, it's a behavior, and why is it worth doing? It shows the teacher and your classmates that you are interested and involved in learning, and it keeps you more alert and focused. So again, you told me what it is. What really is it? Well, SLANT is an acronym, and it stands for sit up straight, lean forward, activate your thinking, note any key information, or sometimes the N is nod your head, and track the speaker. If you do these 5 things, it's really hard not to learn. If you're doing these things, we all get tired, it's a long day, and sometimes you get distracted. If you find yourself doing that and you slant, then you will get yourself back on track and work. Sometimes you'll be working and doing something, and I'll just come up and I'll say, hey, slant. That just means do all of these things. And again, it's an acronym standing for all 5 of these things we need to do. So again, now in our guided notes, we're going to write down what SLANT is. Sit up straight, lean forward, activate your thinking, note any key information, and track the speaker. Electronics. Well, first of all, what are electronics? So we're talking about electronics policy. What is your electronics? Well, it's your phone, your iPod, your game player. Essentially, anything that runs on electricity that I haven't given you to use, then that's electronics. And when can you use electronics? Not in this class. Never. I shouldn't say never. There may be times when I say, hey, everybody do this thing, but in general, unless I've specifically said so, you may not use electronics in my class. What happens if you do use electronics? Well, the first time, I'll take the device away and I'll give it back to you at the end of class. Again, we all make mistakes, and so the first time you make a mistake, it shouldn't be life-ending, so no problem. Second time that it happens, though, and this isn't second time in a day, this is second time throughout the year, I will take the device away and I'll give it back to you at the end of the school day. So if you have me for 5th period, maybe not a big deal. If you have me for 1st period, you've lost your phone for the day. If it happens a 3rd time, then that's pretty bad. You don't need your phones that badly. And if you have take your phone away, if I have to take your phone away a 3rd time, then what I will do is I'll take it away, and you can then tell your parents or aunt or whoever you live with, whatever, that you've lost your phone and they need to come in to see Mr. Hayes to get it. And then your guardian can come in and I will happily give them the phone then. And at that point, your guardian and I will have a conversation as to why it is that you keep getting your phone out during math class. So I don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. So let's just make sure that doesn't happen. And this is the classroom I don't want. I don't want to be that guy in the back who is exasperated that none of his students are paying attention, so we're not going to do that. So electronics, here are our guided notes. And the first time you lose it for class, second time lose it for the entire day, and the 3rd time your parents have to pick it up. No fun for anyone. Okay, the bathroom policy. When can you use the bathroom? Well, you can't use it in the first or last 10 minutes of class. You need to plan better than that. If you have to go to the bathroom in between periods, then obviously go then. Don't just come into my class and immediately raise your hand and say you got to go, or 2 minutes before the bell rings say you got to go, because you can wait. Can't do it during a lesson or demonstration. If I'm showing something new, that is not the time to go out. Or if anyone else from this class is using a bathroom. We go out one scholar at a time. So again, please be aware of that when you are using it, that no one else can, so hurry up. Or if you have no space left on your planner, that you are allowed 2 bathroom sign-ins a week. And so if you have 2 spots in your planner for that week, and if you have no spots, then the answer is no, you've already used them for this week. And how are you going to let me know that you need to use the bathroom? Just take your planner, put it in your hand, and raise your hand. If I see you raising your hand with a planner, I'll figure it out. I'll come by, sign it, and you can go. And then finally, there is a bathroom log right by the door. When you both leave to go to the bathroom and then come in after having gone to the bathroom, you need to sign in with a time. If you don't do that, then the next time you ask to go to the bathroom, the answer is going to be no. And the reason we're doing that, we're all doing this in the school, and that way if there's a problem that happens while you were out, then we know that you are perhaps have some information about it. If something happened to the bathroom at 1 o'clock and you were back in my room at 12:50, then by definition you weren't responsible. Okay, so the bathroom notes, not in the first or last 10 minutes of class. Raise your hand with the planner, sign out, and back in on the bathroom sign out in sheet by the door. Okay, doing group work. We do lots of group work in this class. You'll notice that on one of the previous slides we went through every week. That every week we have a group practice assessment. You'll do that in a group. and it counts towards your assessment grade. It's an actual test, and so it will count towards that. And assessments are a big deal. They're almost half of your class grade, 45% of your total grade, and they're made of individual assessments. Those are the ones that you do yourself, as well as group assessments. And so those group assessments, 20% of 45%, you can quickly figure out that's 9%. So 9% of your grade, the difference between 100 and a 91, is how well you do on group work. So it is a big deal, and it's important that we do that. And what I should tell you is the whole group gets the same grade. Therefore, if you are the person who's farthest ahead at your group and you just want to do your own test, and you're with the people who you're with, you say, forget it, I don't care whether they know it or not. Well, if I ask one of your classmates to come up to the board to do a problem and they can't, that's the same grade as you would get if you couldn't do the problem. If I take the test from one of your classmates, if I take the assessment from one of your classmates and choose to grade that one rather than yours, that's the grade you get. So your entire group is going to get the same grade. So it's important that not only that you work with your group, but that you really show them how to do it. Because again, you never know, someone from your group may be asked to come to the board to do a problem, and if they do a bad job, that reflects badly on you. And when we do group assessments, we're going to do some self-assessments to see how the group is working. This does not count towards your grade. This is just used to try to get us back on track and keep us mindful of how we work in groups, because working in groups is a very, very important skill that scholars will need to know in college. And I have created 3 rubrics, one for each of our 3 values at DCP. And so here is the rubric for respect. Here you can see our values, and again, these are 5 different possibilities of how well someone is doing. So during our group work, you'll be given one of these. You'll take a quick look and say, yeah, I think we're doing a 4, and what can we do to try to get to a 5? Okay, so for group work, it counts towards the grade, graded as a group, so you make sure everyone knows what to do. And we're going to use the stop and assess group rubrics to ensure good process. All right, individual presentations. So every other week in this class, you'll be responsible for presenting a problem to the class. You go up to the board and you do it all out. It counts towards class participation, which is 20% of your grade, so it's a big deal. And it will be graded mostly on effort. If you get the problem wrong, that's okay. If you're trying hard and you're working hard, that's fine. I will also give you your assignment of what problem you will have to do well before it's due. So you can look ahead and say, hey, you know what? I think I need help with that. I'm going to come see Mr. Hayes and make sure I look good when I'm up in front of all my friends in math class. And then finally, I'll grade on a rubric so you can easily see what you did well and what you still need to improve. And there's a copy of the rubric so you can see that you have some preparation skills. Were you ready for the problem or did it just come out of nowhere? Again, I'll tell you beforehand. Was it organized? Was it neat? Were you whispering? Were you speaking in a loud voice so people can hear you? Did you use academic language? And finally, the overall quality. I'll just circle whether you did a good job for 2 points, an okay job for 1 point, or 0 points for doing a bad job. And so it's out of a total of 12 points. And I'll give you one of these every time you go up to the board to present. All right, a quick word about gum. Don't chew gum in my class. If you do chew gum in my class, you'll be asked to take it and throw it out. Not a big deal. And you'll be asked to come to my room after school or during lunch so that you can go under all the desks and scrape all the gum from the people who I didn't catch with gum. Gum is just nasty. I'm a gum chewer. I don't think gum is nasty. Let me rephrase that. I think that sometimes when we're in class and the garbage can can seem an awful long way away, that people can take gum and they throw it, or they throw it on the ground, they put it under the desks, and that's pretty nasty, and I don't want to deal with it, so there will be no gum in my class. So if that's what you look like, don't do that. Actually, if you look like that, we got bigger problems than the fact that you're chewing gum. You're a sponge or a starfish. Finally, our policy on grading. All right, so grading consists of 4 things: of homework, class participation, of weekly quizzes, and a final exam, which we give once per semester. And those 4 things together, there's a little blown out pie chart, will calculate your entire grade. So let's go through those. The first one is homework. All right, homework counts for 20% of your grade, and as I said before, it's graded on effort. If you try your hardest on homework and can't do it, then that means I didn't do a good job of teaching you, but if you're trying your hardest, then you get an A for the day. That's just fine. Okay, the next one is class participation. Okay, that also counts as 20%. And that one I put down effort. There is some accuracy in it. Again, if you're doing a presentation on the board and you don't know how to do it, well, that's if you went and came and saw me and you still don't know how to do it, that's one thing. But if you didn't bother to come see me, you knew you had this problem for a week, you just didn't do anything, and then you failed it, and then you try really hard up on the board, well, you're not going to get a very good grade. But in general, if I ask you a question and you tell me what you think the answer is and it's wrong, well, you tried. That's worth something. So again, class participation is mostly effort, not quite 100%, but mostly effort. Okay, these weekly quizzes, as you can see, that's the biggest chunk of our pie right there. The weekly quizzes count for 45%. And there, it's about being accurate. It's not about just trying really hard. It's about making sure that you are accurate in your answers. So if you get the answer right, it's worth the points. If you don't, that's not. And then finally, once a semester, so twice throughout the year, we will have a final. And that's worth 15% of your grade. And again, that's based on accuracy. There is one other thing about finals, which is that they are cumulative. So everything you've learned up to that point will be on the finals. And therefore, even if you're failing the class, if you can get an 85% on the final, then you pass the class. Okay, so I wouldn't expect anyone to do this, because if you can get an 85 on the final, I sure hope you're not failing my class. But things happen, family emergencies, whatever. Maybe the first 2/3 of the semester you weren't paying attention, you had stuff going on, but you're smart and hardworking and you work really hard, and so on the final you get an 87%. Well, I'm not going to fail you for my semester just because you failed all the other stuff, because you know what's going on. So if you get an 85%, you will pass my class. So it's never too late. Even if you have a 0 going into the final, you can pass. And I want to take you through a hypothetical something about grading to let you realize just how important it is to have effort in my class. So I made up a student named Bill. He has a great attitude and he works really hard and completes all of his assignments. He puts full effort into all his homework assignments and he participates fully in class. However, for reasons that don't make any sense, but that's okay, it's a fictional example, Bill fails every single test and exam, and with a score of 50%. Well, what's Bill's final grade? Okay, well, in participation, that's worth 20%. He got all 100% of that, so it's all 20%. Same thing with homework, a whole 100% for his effort times 20%. That gives us another 20%. Now we're getting to the quizzes. Ooh, the quizzes, remember, he only got half of them right, so 50% out of 45, so that's 22.5%. And then his final, he again got a 50% out of 15%, so that's another 7.5%. Add all that together, and Bill gets a 70%. Bill passes my class. Now let's talk about someone who's the exact opposite. Fred, who has a terrible attitude. He never does his homework, never participates in class. However, since this is a fictional example and doesn't make any sense, he gets 100% on all the tests and quizzes. So what's Fred's grade? Okay, well, he gets a 0 in participation, a 0 in homework, and 100 on his quizzes, and 100 on his final. Therefore, put all that together, and he ends up with a 60%. So Fred would fail my class. Now, again, he wouldn't fail my class if he got 100% on the final, but again, this is an illustrative example to show you that it is really important to do your homework and participate in class. If you do, it's a much easier class, you get a lot of free points, and you can succeed and pass the class. If you try to get by on just doing well on tests, that is trouble. All right, finally, our final guided note. So today, for the grading, the homework is 20%, the class participation, which includes do nows, exit tickets, and especially the individual presentations, is 20%. The weekly quizzes is 45%. And finally, the final exam is 15%.